Okay guys, so we've got a really fun video for you today. We get to play with our new Treadle machine. Now, it's obviously not new, it's new to us. I believe this model came out in about 1911. It's a Franklin Treadle, and which I believe was distributed by the Sears and Roebuck Company. The finding information for this is not exactly as easy as like an old Singer machine where there's databases of serial numbers and whatnot. But from what I can tell, they started making this machine in about 1911. And I've handled enough of these old machines by now that I kind of have a feel for it, and it feels right to me. It seems like about a 1911 to 1920 type machine. So that's what I think we've got here. It's an absolute work of art and an absolute piece of history, and I'm super excited to show you guys with it. What we've got here is a vintage treadle machine, meaning there's no power and there's no plug-in. There's just you and the machine, and it runs off of this pedal down here. I'm not sure if you can see that on camera at the moment, but it runs off of this pedal down here, and you go as fast or slow as you want, and it does the work for you, and it does a really fine job. Now, to back up on the story just a little bit, just a few months ago, I had never even heard of a treadle machine. What the heck's a treadle, and why would you want one? I mean, I don't know. It seemed like a novelty that was maybe outdated, like, you know, why are we running Little House on the Prairie stuff if we've got brand new machines to play with? And then my wife and I started collecting machines and, you know, kind of getting to know the market and getting to know the research on these things, and it became very clear that, wow, these have a mystique about them, and there's history to them, and stories that can be told by them. And so we ended up wanting a treadle machine for our collection, and we ended up acquiring a treadle machine for our collection, and that's kind of how this sickness grows. It's a fabulous and wonderful thing. So as far as we got there was acquiring a treadle, and so we brought it home and we put it in what we call Stitcher's Row out on the hallway, where we have a nice row of antique machines. And for the last 3 months it has sat there proudly like a trophy, and that's all it was, really, was just a trophy. And I kind of never thought we'd really do anything with it, because why? You know, you've got all these new machines, and even we have 30s and 40s vintage machines that are like, you know, they've got electricity. I mean, it's like, what is this? You know, wrought iron and rope and stuff. It's like, I'm not sure why we'd use that. And then the wildest thing happened, right? Like every day I'd walk down the hall and I'd walk past this machine and past our little row of machines in our display, and I just kept thinking, boy, wouldn't it be cool to do something with that treadle? And like, well, what would I do with that treadle? I have no idea. But I knew I wanted to do something fun with it. So today is the day. I thought, hey, let's do it. I thought, you know, I want to make videos about reviewing the individual vintage machines that we have and how cool they are and what each one's good for and the quirks and features of them and whatnot. And this is the one I chose for today. And so I thought, let's get over the hump. And, you know, to be honest, maybe it's a little intimidating because it's not as easy to use, and it's not quite as user-friendly. But I've been practicing on it for the last day or two, and, you know, it's not that bad. Once you get to know it and get to figure out kind of how to use it, I think you can sew on it kind of like a regular machine, believe it or not. I think it's different for everybody. I've watched a few videos, and I've seen some people give advice on how to run the machine and what works for them, and maybe that didn't quite work for me and the way my brain and my coordination works. So, you know, I'm sure, you know, most of you have these have figured out how to do it already, which is great. But in case you have a machine like this, or you're looking to acquire one and you're not sure how to run one, possibly what I've learned and what I have to share might help you out. And if that's the case, hopefully so. If you get nothing else but a good laugh at what I'm trying to do, then there you go. So anyway, what I want to do is I'd like to bring you in a little closer and show you how I load up the shuttle with thread and get the needle going and ready to go for the test project that I have in mind today. And then I'll kind of go over how I run the treadle physically and efficiently for me. And we will get a test project done and a sneak peek to the future. If I can proof of concept today that this thing will actually do a test quilt, where I can actually quilt and top stitch quilt, straight stitch quilt through a test project, then I have this project on the design wall that I am going to attempt, albeit possibly more challenge than I'm up for. I'm going to attempt to build and make this entire quilt, start to finish, binding and all, on this treadle machine. So that'll be the next video. if we are successful today. So come on in and we'll give it a look. Okay guys, so now we've got you in a little closer here. What I'd like to do is just show you quickly kind of around this machine. The first thing I want to show you is the stories it has to tell. Hopefully you can see this on camera. The pin rash that it's got is just phenomenal. This is like the patina on a vintage car. A lot of times in the past, sewers would take a pin cushion and wrap it around this body and then just have pins right here to pull and to a place to cushion their pins. And you ended up with this pattern of damage from all the pins. And you can tell by how many we have here that this was used. This machine got a good life of use. It's, who knows, the untold number of socks it mended, pants it hemmed, drapes it made, Sunday dresses it constructed. Who knows? It's just phenomenal. The wear patterns, it's got a really beautiful set of decals. They're Egyptian style, I believe modeled after maybe a Singer, I think like a 27 or something like that. But I think it was modeled after an old Singer machine model. And it's got the Scarab Beetle decal system on it, which is absolutely phenomenal. I love it. And it's beautiful over here, and it just gets eaten all up on this end, which is just perfect. It just shows everywhere it was actually used, the decals are missing, and then they just get beautiful out here. This is something you just can't pretend, and you can't hide, and you can't make up. This machine was used, and it is phenomenal. Just love the history that it tells. So hopefully you can see it's just got a beautiful, intricate design on the end plate. You can't see because the camera's in the front. Let me just take this badge off for you real quick. It's a cover plate to the motor assembly in the back, or the working assembly in the back. Look at that awesome, intricate Franklin badge. So pretty, so cool. The artwork on this machine is just phenomenal. So I don't know if I can get this put on backwards without seeing it. I'll put that on later. No worries. Beautiful, love it. So the first thing I want to do is get this thing set up and try to get a test run on it. So what we do is we pull this guy out. Has a little plate on it, and I don't know if you can see, but it's got a helper guide on kind of what size of needle you want to use and thread counts and whatnot. Super cool from back in the day. And what we've got here is a shuttle, and which is super different than any of the modern machines. Instead of having a little tube barrel, it's got this super cool shuttle bobbin that looks like a bullet. It's just so neat looking and intricate. They came up with this in a design, in an engineering standpoint. It's just super cool. And then you just drop it out, and out comes the actual bobbin itself, which is, it doesn't hold as much thread as a newer machine, but super, super cool. What happens is you come over here and you engage. Now, I'm having to figure this out just for the last few days by myself, for myself, so you have to pardon me if it's not the correct way to do this, but I think I figured out how it mainly works. It basically sits right in here, and you feed the thread right onto that bad boy. So what is really cool about this is this cam system. You can see as you run it, I'll have to engage this. As you run this, you see this cam moving back and forth. It goes back and forth so that it feeds the thread on it, nice and evenly distributed across the bobbin. It's so cool. You just don't, I love it when you can see the mechanisms working exterior on the machine. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and put on a piece of, or a white bobbin thread. We'll bring it over across here, and I'm not sure if this is how this is supposed to be, but it seems to me that, you know, it has to come off of here, and they have this extra point here for a diversion here and a hold. So that's kind of what I figured out. I bring it up, hook it onto here, and then what I want to do is I just want to pinch it in between the housing of the bobbin loading assembly and the bobbin itself. So I'll just release it a little bit. I'll drape the thread over the top. Hopefully you can see this. And pull the bobbin out a little bit, and then see if I can get it to just pinch. Yeah. Okay, so I don't know if you can see that. Hopefully it makes out on camera. I've just pinched the thread right in that bobbin assembly right there. And I can just wind up a little bit of the tension here. Oh, she came out a little too strong. Don't know my own strength. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to engage this guy. So go on like that. So going? Oh, it goes up like this. Okay. So we've now rerouted the belt so it engages in the wheel. We've got this thing tied on here, and I should be able to, maybe what I'll do is I'll just take and snip off a little of this excess right here. I should be able to just give this thing a spin and start working the pedal, and like magic, starts loading the bobbin. I like how it's going. I'll speed it up a little bit. You see it just working this cam around these gears, and it just like magic. I'll go a little faster. It seems to be handling it okay, holding perfect tension. It's just, I mean, from 1911, are you kidding me? What a beautifully running machine. It does exactly what you want it to do, exactly how you want it to do it. Super, super impressive and super fun. It's like you're working a little piece of history here. So cool. All right, that ought to be enough for today's demonstration. So I will just disengage, pull the belt out, and when this is down, I think this just kind of works as a guide and a placeholder for the belt. It doesn't really need it at that point. I will snip this. This is ready to load into the needle, and I'll just take the spring up, pull it out, and look at that. We've got a nice loaded bobbin, perfectly wound. Now for the tricky part. You'd think this would be the easy part. This is magic, I'll warn you right now. I don't understand how this works. I don't know if anybody does, but it works. From what I can figure out, it's imperative that you run the thread anti-clockwise when you insert it into the bobbin. I don't know why it would matter. I can't imagine why it would matter, but I cannot get it to work if I go the other way. So I have it coming around this way. I drop it in the hole. There's a slot right here. You thread down there, hold the bobbin with your finger, and it pops, and you cut the thread. See how that works? No, that's not supposed to happen. That does happen. We'll try that again. Attempt number 2. Like I said, this is the magic part. I wish I knew how to do it better, but I'm still learning. That's how it works. So I pull it down, bring it down the slot, pop it, bring it back up. Oh, and it worked. See how now it's inside? Pull it over with my finger a little bit. And what I'm looking for is that. See how now the thread is now on top of this little hook right here? That is where we want to be. So now it has tension and it's got a nice feel to it. You can hold it up and it holds itself up, but it isn't that hard to pull it out. That means that's a pretty good amount of tension. So this, again, I don't know how that works. The thread comes down this slot, and then when you pull back up, it's somehow in the right position. I don't get it, but I don't ask questions around here. I just do what I'm told. So this thing here, you just stick this flat spot right, bring the shuttle around, stick this right in the little flat spot. This little spot here with the little marks is what goes along the race and moves back and forth. So it just falls right into place like that. No problem. I leave the thread out here. That part is done. Super cool, super easy. Relatively speaking, not as much as a modern machine, but hey, this is 1911 we're talking about. Super easy for then. This beats the heck out of doing it by hand with a needle. Okay, so I start up here with the thread. I pull it through this guide. Now, just like any other machine, I'm just going to go right in between the tension plates. And this one's really easy. There's a little spring right here. You're just going to come up in between the spring. I hold the tension with my finger on the bobbin or the thread, and then I just pull up on it till it clips in. Now, as you can see, this spring is engaged. Okay, so that's cool. Pull a little more slack, put it in between here. So now you're on your take-up. So now it's hooked up on the take-up. And now there's a little guide right here. You just grab the thread on either top and bottom and yank it into the back. And now it's stuck into that. So now we're hooked here. And there's just one more little doodad bar right here that it wants to play with. You stick it right in behind there on the side. And now you have a left-hand side entry ready to go. So this is now ready to thread into the needle. And I'm hard of seeing, so I use a little cheater guy, which is this. If you don't have one of these and you're old like me, I highly suggest it. There's a little teeny hook if you can see it. I just feel with my fingers to make sure I've got it going up. Stick it in the hole of the needle. I can't see any of this. That's all by feel. Play a hook with your, a loop with your thread. Hook it on there till you feel it, and now it's hooked, and I just fish it through the hole. Look at that. Boom, she's through, I'm done, just like I was a young guy. And I'm done, I'm there. Now, just like any other machine, pull it back behind, give it a rotation around, bring it up, and did it catch? Did it try it again? Okay, I can see how it's jumping, it caught it. So now I just take this and pull it through, and look at that. I've got both of them coming out the bottom. Just like a new machine, it's the same technology, it's the same concept, it's the same lock stitch as we use today. It's just unbelievable that someone figured this out in the early 1900s. So we are ready to go. Let me put this plate back on, and this machine is now fully operational. Super cool, not that hard, anybody can do it. If I can figure it out, anybody can figure it out. So what I'm gonna do is just test it before I get going on my project and make sure that's working. I've got 2 pieces of this black fabric, and I'm just gonna line up what I would, kind of get a practice on getting a 1/4 inch seam allowance on. Get the needle up out of my way. Okay, and get it ready to go. Just like any other machine, I'm gonna hold the thread and I'm gonna sink it. Okay, and we'll just get it going and show you how it works. Smooth as butter. No problem. I can rotate it around. Okay, finish it with it up in an upstroke like any other machine. Pop it out and cut the threads. Now I believe it does have a thread cutter on the back, but I really don't prefer to use those. I like to have the threads long so I can come out and hold them. But as you can see, it's a decent stitch. It's definitely locking, it definitely looks good. It might be a little tight. I might loosen this just a tiny bit, just because it's gathering a little bit, but I think that the thread length is good. I can adjust the thread, the stitch length, with this knob right here. Maybe a little bit bigger, but we're looking pretty good. Now let me show you how I do the treadle operation. I've seen people give advice on using 2 feet. And I tried that, and I don't really think that's an efficient way to do it. Not for me, anyway. I like using 1 foot because if you use 2 feet, you're balancing on your bum, and it's giving you more strain on your back. And if you do this for a few hours, you're gonna hurt. I like to keep 1 foot on the ground to balance the base myself, and then I just use 1 foot. And you really, once you get it going, it's got momentum. The wheel on there is a great big balance wheel. It doesn't need to be pushed and pulled and pushed and pulled. Once it gets going, it just needs a little bit of a nudge. I like to use my heel side and just nudge it. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and just nudge it every time it comes around on its full circle, full cycle. And so the real trick here is getting it started. One way to do it is to spin it forward, because if you go backwards, it'll lock up and it'll make a bird's nest, and you'll have to rip it apart and do it all over again. So try to never allow it to go backwards, always going forward. So when I first started out, what I did was I just yank on this real hard and then jump over here and make sure I'm going straight. So I'll kind of line up on this stitch and I'll yank it, and then once my foot feels what direction I'm going, I can keep it going, okay? So that's okay, but you can see once you jump over here, you take the chance of getting off your line. And if you're quilting and you're trying to keep a 1/4 inch seam allowance, that can be a little bit tricky. So let me show you what I kind of figured out, and maybe this will make more sense to you. It did to me anyway. What I figured out is, what I usually do is start out by sinking the needle anyway. I'll sink it. Okay, now as I'm sinking it, I can feel in my foot that it's in the process of going to the heel side. It's moving back. Okay, as I'm sinking the needle. I'm doing it anyway, so as I just pay attention when I sink it, the needle, I know, is it going forward or is it going backward? And if it's in the middle where it's the dead zone, where it's not doing either, sink it one more time, and until you start to notice and you can identify, is the pedal going forward or backward? I can tell right now it's going to the heel side. So all I got to do is get set, get ready to sew, both hands here, and just hit it good and hard with my heel, and it should get going and go the right direction. So just like this, I'm ready to go, I go heel side, boom, and I'm off and running. We'll try that again. We'll start here, pretend like I'm starting. Right here, I put the fabric in, I'm gonna put it in, and I'm at the dead zone, so I can't tell where the foot pedal is. So I'll do it again. I'll go one more stitch, and I can feel that it's going to heel side again. It's ready to go heel side. So I'm ready. I'm going to yank. I'm going to push on my heel, and the wheel should turn the right direction. Boom, ready to go. See that? How easy that is? Sometimes it'll be going. You'll be going. It'll be ready to go on the toe side. But generally, depending on how you're all set up with the juxtaposition of your rope and your wheel, you should be fairly consistent with that. So that's how I do it. I think that it's a pretty good system. I haven't been doing this for very long, so I'm sure there's a better way. I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments. If you've got a better technique, or maybe the technique that you like and works better for you. So, but for me, this seems to work out. I'm super happy with it. I did play with it for like an hour and a half last night, just kind of testing to make sure I wasn't gonna get on video here and just completely fail. But after doing this for a little while, I don't really feel like there's a limitation because it's a treadle. I feel like I can, sew a pretty good stitch, and it isn't that big of a deal. Now it doesn't have reverse. So what I feel like you can do here is, if you want to lock up your stitch, is have it be where it just about comes back down, and then just pull it back a stitch and have it re-enter the stitch that you were in, and it goes right back down into there and goes forward again. And then I'll show you what that looks like. And this may not be perfect, but as you can see, I overlap those stitches, and I'm pretty hard of seeing, so I may not have got it lined up exactly right. It's a little to the right, but if you lock that over just a skosh to the left, you will have locked your stitch. You can go back as many as you want to do, but I think that without having a reverse or a back tack, that's how you would accomplish your locking stitch. So these are pretty decent looking stitches. It might be a little tight, but the adjustability on this, from what I'm getting, is not as easy as a new machine. It's old technology, and it's probably there's some worn out parts and whatnot, but this is definitely good enough for what we're going to do today. So I think that's about Treadling 101 for this. Let me step back again, and we will show you the project that we have in mind for today. I am trying to get a proof of concept that I can actually quilt on this machine, so I've got a little test board set up with some pieces I'm going to piece together, and hopefully by the end of this video we will have a miniature test quilt put together and top stitched. So look forward to that. Okay, so I'm all set up here to do my test panel, and hopefully you can see this here on my design board. What I've got is just some random scraps that I've cut into a little ladder pattern that so I can show piecing a few pieces both directions, and then I've also got a piece of batting and backing the same size as this, so that I can eventually put it together, baste it, and try to do some straight line quilting over all the seams, doubling up all the seams. And if I can do that, then I will have proven that this thing and I also can quilt on this. Granted, it's not the same as muscling around an entire quilt. That'll be another challenge in itself that hopefully I'll be up to, but we'll take it one step at a time. First, I want to see if I can actually get this accomplished. So what I'm going to do is, I'm not going to be super precise here. I would probably pin all this if I was really concerned about it, but for today's presentation or test, I'm just going to see if I can get this all put in here with about 1/4 inch seam allowance. And so we will stitch these bad boys up real quick and piece them together and see if we can make us a little practice quilt. And won't that be fun? I like a good challenge, and this is definitely going to be something I've never done before, so that's the kind of thing I like to do, is be challenged. So one down. That's good. Clip my tails. I really like these little scissors. They're super nice. We had a subscriber send those to us, and I was really appreciative of that. They're super fun. Okay, and now we're top to top here. And I'm just going to line up my next one, blue to black. Pull my tails out a little bit. And line up my seam allowance. Sink my needle. And it feels like it wants to go heel side, so I should be able to just go heel side and rip it go. Here we go. And here we go, we are pieced. So what I'm gonna do is take this to the ironing board and I'm gonna break all these open and iron them open flat, and then I'll attach the sides. So let me get that done real quick and we'll get to the next step. Okay, so look how cool that looks. I almost have a little quilt here. And you can see the back, I've got this all ironed out, seams apart, so they'll lay nice and flat. And so now what I'm going to do is take my next piece face to face, and I'm going to add this guy. They're going to run long, so I didn't know how long they were going to be, and I'll just cut them off after I sew. But we will do this and add our little outside strip. Okay, same as before, 1/4 inch. Sink the needle. Okay, give it a whirl, just like that. How did we do here? Well, I mean, it's a decent 1/4 inch. It could be straighter, a little better, but you know, I'm kind of in a hurry trying to make it okay, but I think that'll do. I mean, that'll iron out pretty well. So let me iron these flat and I'll be right back. Okay, so I got this thing all ironed out and I got it trimmed up to size, and I've got a piece of batting in between it and a backing on the back, and it is all basted almost like a little quilt. So, you know, step 1, 2, 3, and 4 are a success. It isn't the most perfect thing I'm sure anybody could ever make, but for me, it's not bad. I'm definitely a beginner at this, so I've gotten 3/4 the way through making a fake quilt. Now I'm going to really see where the rubber hits the road here and see if I can actually top stitch straight, I think we just call this a straight line quilting process. The feed dogs don't drop on this. I can't really do some fancy free motion situation on it, but my plan is just to go up and down the seams on either side and quilt it out. So we'll see how we do. And if I can accomplish this, then we will be ready for the next step, which is this monster of a project that I have laid out and cut into pieces on the wall. So yeah, we'll see. Okay, here we go. We are going to go down each side of this bad boy and see if we can't top stitch this thing. We need this to go underneath. This isn't working out here. There we go. Okay, line this up. Looks good. Drop the foot. Okay, here we go, top stitch. Okay. I just take my time a little more on this because you can kind of see this stitch. And this might be a little intimidating, but trust me, if I can do it and I'm willing to do it, I'm pretty sure all of y'all can do it too, because as you can see, I have no idea what I'm doing. You gotta start somewhere, guys. As long as you're having fun, you're doing really well, and I am having a blast. Okay, let's see how that worked out. I got a little close in a couple spots, but look at that. I mean, it top stitched. Boy, I was kind of mixed feelings on whether this was going to work out, because now if this works out, I've got this challenge ahead of me on this design board that I'm going to have to deal with. So I'm glad it's working. Don't get me wrong. I'm glad it's working out. This is good. I can do this. I can do this. I just got to believe. Just got to have belief. Come down the other side now. Going forward. Here we go. Okay. All right, looks decent. So I've gone up and down both sides. I'm going to go and stitch all of these up. So it's going to be the same process as I've just done. And so I think I'll go ahead and get that done off camera. And then I will join back up with you when I get it done, and we'll see how it turned out and talk about our next steps. Okay guys, so looks like we did it. I got this thing all finished out, top stitched, and I think it was a success. It looks like a mini quilt. The only thing I haven't done is binded it, so it would just be a process of folding and top stitching. As long as this thing will go through a few more layers, nice and easy, I think it should be okay. So you can see that you can see that or not up close. It stitched it all out pretty decently. My stitch work isn't the best. I think if I took my time a little more and concentrated a little more on making straighter lines, that would probably be better. I think I could probably improve a little bit on this. Hopefully improve every time you do one of these things. But realistically, I used dark fabric and white thread so that you guys could see it on camera as a demonstration. If this was an actual quilt, I think I would use black thread on the black fabric and turquoise thread on the turquoise fabric. And I think even at the fairly poor quality of stitching that I've done, I don't think you'd notice. I think this actually would pass. I think I might have even seen worse quilts, to be honest with you. So super cool. I'm super happy. It worked. It stitched through all of the layers. I think once you wash this, or would wash it, theoretically, it would bunch up in the washing machine and turn into a quilt. And I think that all the imperfections would just kind of hide and look good. So I'm super happy it all worked out. And this now means that I can move on to the monster on the wall here. So I've never muscled a full-size quilt around before. I've made a dog blanket for a Chihuahua, and I've made a couple of table runners, and I've made small things like this and felt pretty cool about it. So we'll see if I can do that. That'll be in my next video. Come along for that, and you can get yourself some popcorn and a cold beverage and have a good laugh at my expense. And it'll be fun. And maybe you guys can chime in on the comments and tell me kind of what I'm doing wrong and how I can improve my skills and grow this community of awesome quilting and sewing machine enthusiasts. So I think that's going to do it for this time. Tune in for the next one. It's going to be a lot of fun. Please don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. And remember, when it comes to sewing machines, you can never have too many. See you next time.